Greetings, Rob Simpson here, aka Simmer to many of you or most of you in the hockey world, and we are Krakin Canuckleheads. That's right. We're going to be talking about the Seattle Kraken and the Vancouver Canucks. This is your headquarters for NHL hockey in the Pacific North, and we'll get into some junior stuff and some minor league stuff probably along the way, but mostly it's about the Kraken and the Canucks. And with that in mind, you'll always want to remember to check out the written material or the video material and everything else, the editorials at seattlehockeyinsider.com if you're into the Kraken, or vancouverhockeyinsider.com if you're into the Canucks. You'll see these videos on there. You'll see other videos. You'll see some, as I mentioned, editorial comment, some of it controversial at times, as we've been known to do, some rants along the way. And also check out the YouTube channel. We also find these at Simmerpuck. Well, there's a bunch of things to cover here on day one, and no guests. We will have guests on a very frequent basis. Hall of Famers, media members, radio, TV, writers, you name it. GMs, head coaches, coaches across the board from the National Hockey League and beyond, but not today. Today, we're just introducing things a little bit here and bringing up start with the Canucks, the number one topic. It's simple. Goaltending, as we've heard so many say in the past, you could change the name of the game to goalie. It's that important. So what's the story? Thatcher Demko a couple of years ago had a left knee injury, had surgery, recovered from that, strained a groin, missed some time due to a groin injury. I think that was during Bruce Boudreau's, the start of his last season. And then since then, 2 injuries to his right knee. And our good friend Kevin Woodley from In Goal Magazine, NHL.com, spoke to radio listeners in Vancouver this morning and brought up this muscle in the knee. He specified what was going wrong with Demko this time out. And I got to look this up because it's called the popliteus muscle. So it's the popliteus muscle. I'm smiling. It's kind of funny, the terminology, but it's serious business because that's what Demko is recovering from. Worst case scenario, obviously, his career is impacted long-term and he's unable to play hockey. That's the worst case scenario. It's looking like he's on his way back. He's had multiple issues. That's a concern, but it looks like he's on his way back. Will it be days? Will it be weeks? Will it be months? He did speak to the media last week, or should I say some of the media, and it looks like he's on his way back. Canucks got very lucky finding Kevin Lankinen available, made a couple $1 million last year with Nashville as the backup to Uzi Saros, and they get him for $875. He was probably asking for a bit too much in the offseason, sat in the free agent market, sat around and waited, and boy, oh boy, he's a good goaltender. 29-year-old Finnish netminder from Helsinki. He slides right in there, and don't be surprised if he's the number one guy when the season starts. That would relegate Artur Silovs to backup status, the Latvian, which is just fine. Very limited NHL experience, as you probably know as a Canucks fan. Lankinen, a little over 100 NHL games on his resume. So that was a nifty little pickup, a stopgap, if it must be that, until Thatcher Demko comes back. And then, Silovs, it's one point we heard, he's got a little bit of a knee issue, but that was nothing serious, we've been told. So, man, when this Demko thing kept popping up, regardless of which injury it was, I hearkened back to a guy who, to a much smaller degree, Dan Blackburn, 2 decades ago with the New York Rangers. I think he only ended up playing 63 NHL games, but he was considered the goaltender of the future, outstanding young netminder from Montreal. And he ended up having his career end due to shoulder problems, nerve issues in his shoulder. It was tough, obviously. I think he's probably 41 years of age now, but his career ended prematurely. Now, Demko obviously has a much greater body of work than Blackburn did, but it wouldn't be different in terms of a kind of a what would be a tragic end due to injury should that eventually happen to Demko. And obviously, as I pointed out off the top, nobody wants to see it happen, and that is, of course, the worst case scenario. Yeah, just imagine if Blackburn sticks around, no Henrik Lundqvist in New York, more than likely, because Blackburn would have been the guy. All right, goalies, that's the situation. By the way, $875 they got Lankinen for on a 1-year deal. Now, speaking of the cap, we moved to Seattle, where it's looking like GM Ron Francis is going to have to move a contract. He's got to create some space so he can bring up a couple extra young bodies, because they only have 21 guys on their roster. If somebody gets hurt on opening night, he's down to basically 12 forwards, 60, and 2 goalies. They'll have 20 guys available. Can't do it. 23 is where you need to be. Kraken right now are at 21, no cap space. So they have some work to do here in training camp. Some names have been thrown out there. Could they move Yanni Gourds? $5+ million. Some would consider that sacrilege since he's kind of a heart and soul guy, but something's going to have to be done. 2 or 3 different names have popped up as potential answers. Maybe even the manic one, Mr. Tanev, Brendan Tanev. That would be tough for certain fans to swallow, that's for sure. We'll see what Ronnie Francis does in the coming days. Last night, I was at the game at the Climate Pledge Arena in the press box, and it was a 6-1 victory for the Calgary Flames. They physically dominated, as well as dominated on the scoreboard. They had a good goaltending performance from Dustin Wolf. This was my little summary with very bad hair in the press box in the waning moments of the 5-goal victory for the Flames.
Hey, thanks, Simmer. Check out my bad hair. Hey, that's Laura right there. Say hi, Laura. She's sitting in the press box. Hey, 141 left, third period. Calgary's up 6-1. They've been physically dominant. Maybe one of the more impressive players on the ice was Dustin Wolf, the former Everett Silvertip, Western Hockey League Goalie of the Year, American Hockey League Goalie of the Year. Trying to take the starting position here in Calgary this season. That goalie position up for grabs for the Flames right now. As for the Kraken, nobody really jumped out. Maybe they had 9 regulars in the lineup. Matty Beniers was good. Otherwise, none of the prospects really did a whole lot for me. And that's really about it. So it doesn't matter. Fans shouldn't panic. Casual fans might see the score and be like, oh my God. Yeah, it's individual evaluation systems, whatever, getting to know the guys, so don't sweat it. It's 6-1, and that's probably the way it's going to wrap up. All right, thanks for coming. Back to you, Simmer.
Yes, indeed. That was it was a bad do. This isn't actually much better. After the game, I talked to Dan Bylsma. The media talked to Dan Bylsma. I asked him about my question regarded the fact that he brought up that everything was out of sync, nothing flowed, nobody was necessarily in the right spot at the right time very often. And having spoken to Ray Edwards, the assistant GM, a few different times during the course of the evening, assistant GM for Calgary, individual evaluation is obviously a huge part of this in the early preseason. You got 10, 12 young guys, minor leaguers, prospects playing for Calgary, 8 or 9 playing for Seattle. Just how tough is it, Coach Bylsma, when you're completely out of sync, to evaluate those individuals? Such an important, undertaking, or, what you're looking to do when you're the coaches and the management staff watching these preseason hockey games. And he pointed out, yeah, it's not easy. It does throw things off because you need to have everything in sync. You need to get guys playing well together so that you can properly evaluate them. He did bring up 3 names, though, that he stood out for him.
There were individuals that did show well. You saw Ryder skating through the ice with the middle of the rink, showing his speed and skill. And, you saw Berkeley Cat in the third period had a couple speed chances and up the ice on rushes, and I thought Villeneuve clearly made a statement in the game. Not every shift, but he had an impact on the game as well, and that was evident.
Ryder was that first one. That would be Shane Wright, who did show some good wheels last night. And then you heard the other one, first round draft pick, Bertley Catton. And Nathan Villeneuve, he had a good night. He scored the one goal for the Kraken against Calgary. It was obviously very excited about that. Wearing number 90, had a little press availability after the game. Did refer to his game as a Matt Tkachuk style of hockey. Matt Tkachuk, of course, a renowned shit disturber, and Villeneuve kind of trying to take after that. And check out this photograph that I snapped of him as he was telling a story and smiling. He likes the feisty stuff, and it's a little old-time hockey look for Nathan. That is just a beauty. Just a beauty. Way to go. Not afraid to mix it up. 50 points and 58 penalty minutes in 56 games last season for the Sudbury Wolves for Villeneuve. Speaking of photos, this was kind of fun. Not so much for me, but, well, yeah, it was fun for me too. Everett Fitzhugh is the radio voice of the Seattle Kraken. I haven't seen him in, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. Doesn't say hello. Nothing. Walks up to me, points to my hair, and says, "That looks horrible." First thing out of his mouth after 4 or 5 months. But we're buds, obviously. Had a lot of laughs, talked some hockey, talked some radio broadcasting, and caught up on things. And then I had to torture him by taking a selfie. I told him I was going to scare his family by texting him at midnight. Here it is. To use a 2-decade-old term, we are what they call homies because we both grew up in the same area. We both root for the same teams and all that good stuff. We have we're like blood brothers of a sort for some reason, but it's great. Anyway, great to see Everett. Great to see everybody back at the rink last night. The Kraken are at the Canucks, so we get to double dip here on Tuesday night. It'll be those two clubs going at it at Rogers Arena. I was denied a press credential for that game. It's keeping up the tradition, which is still comical. But so I won't be there, but that's okay. I don't really need to be there because we have endless sources and resources around the National Hockey League, and we'll get everything we need for you. And we look forward to seeing what the result is and see how everybody plays. We'll be taking a look at it. That's the Kraken and Vancouver on Tuesday night, and we'll always keep you up to date on what's happening on the schedule, off ice, on the ice, and all those good things. Don't forget SeattleHockeyInsider.com, VancouverHockeyInsider.com, at SimmerPuck on Twitter, and also SimmerPuck is my YouTube channel. There's lots of cool stuff on there. From years ago, more recent, both these teams involved with drills, that kind of stuff, old funny TV shows, some comedy, all sorts of hockey madness. That's the SimmerPuck YouTube channel, so check it out. This is Krakin Canuckleheads, and we'll see you. Some very special guests coming up this week, by the way. We'll have at least 3 shows per week, and hopefully more. But some good guests coming up. You're going to enjoy it. We'll see you next time. Krakin Canuckleheads. Bye-bye.